Welcome to JW Designs, and thanks for stopping by. On today's video, you're going to see an end table build and a TV stand build. You'll see the beauty of using contrasting wood types, joining techniques, gluing techniques, and so much more. Helping you create is what we do. Whether it's reworking something or making something brand new, I hope today's video gives you some tips and tricks so you can get that done. If today's video helps you in any way, feel free to like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification so that you know when further content is available down the road. You can also find us on social media. You'll see the links in the description below. Let's roll.
For our anniversary this last week, I wanted to make these end tables and TV stand for my wife. We've been married 33 years now, which is hard to imagine. To make these, we took some time to select maple and walnut tops, maple legs. And right here you can see that I'm working on joining these two boards together. Because of the width of each of these tables, it was necessary to go a little wider than the board was. So we broke out the domino joiner, took some time to get everything marked correctly, and put them together. This is most definitely my favorite way to join two boards. The joint just ends up being very strong and works really well. Some old pipe clamps that my dad had laying around. A few years ago, he passed them my direction, and I have been thrilled to be able to use them. So it's great to be able to break them out on this project. Grab the old glue brush. By the way, that glue brush that you see there, that's just like a basting brush, and the glue comes off of those so nicely. I saw that with a tip not too long ago. As you can see, my wife is stepping in to help me out. I want her to know how much I appreciate that. What a mess this is. Getting all of this glue spread out, put on the dominoes, and plenty of squeeze out when we put these pipe clamps together. I was really excited to put these live edge pieces to use. Lots of glue squeeze out on this. It's always good to go liberally with the glue. Now breaking away from the top joining, we're moving to creating those legs. Getting all the legs cut apart. Ended up being about 1.5 inches by 2 inches on dimensions. I had some maple laying around in the wood shop that I've had for quite some time. In fact, Bill Philippi is a fellow woodworker who passed this maple on to me, and I've used it for work benches, for all kinds of things. Big shout out and thanks. Making sure to take a look at this really nice piece of hard maple. You see that I'm working on just making sure that I have that push stick so that I don't hurt myself. And this miter saw station that I made not too long ago, I used Craig's ruler setup so that it would work on this miter saw station. It has been a great help. Really easy to make repeatable cuts on this miter saw station. So now we're going to be making these cross cuts on the legs to get them to length. With 2 end tables and 1 TV stand, we have, I think, somewhere around, 4, 8, 14 total. Now moving on to the apron boards for the tables. Initially, you're going to see a little later on, as I'm putting these together, I had a different design in mind. The way they ended up, they just seemed to be a little too long on the legs, and I ended up putting a nice shelf in the middle of those tables. Here's a little trick that I learned with this setup. It's tough to measure for shortcuts on these boards, but what you can do is take a longer board and put it against the guide and the stop, and then you cut to the line that I made here on this short apron board, and then I move the stop to the longer board. That way you can make repeatable cuts. It turns out real good. And there's our first one. These tables ended up being somewhere around 15 by 27 on the end tables. The TV stand ended up being dimensionally about 16 by 61.5. Now I'm putting the angles on the maple legs. I'll be taking these over to the bandsaw here in just a moment and cutting these so that we have a nice angle. Creates a little bit of a feature. It's not quite as plain as you might see with just maintaining a square leg. In the future, one of the things that I'd like to do is create a feature on the front of these legs, or something that I create in the future or make in the future that would create some fluting. I thought about doing that on this, but chose not to. Wanted to move the camera so you had a better look at what's going on here. You can see the angle that I'm drawing on this leg. And now at the bandsaw, I was able to make that cut, and it did really well. I purchased this bandsaw used a few years ago off of Craigslist. It's an old Delta 2-horse bandsaw. I found a place here locally where I can get the blades for them, and very reasonable. So now for the TV stand, what I wanted to do was make some notches in the legs. So I'm just going to tell you right up front, this ended up being a real chore. This is probably about my 4th or 5th time through. I have several legs that I messed up on. So you can see I'm just kind of creeping up on the measurement, and that's a good recommendation for you. Anytime you're wanting to cut a dado, it's good to do a test piece. It's also good to kind of creep up on the measurement. That way you don't end up doing what I did and waste some material. Guys, thank you for taking time out of your day to check this video out. I really appreciate each of you being a part of this. And I'm glad that we can help you create. Maybe learn some tips and tricks. This sled that I have on the table saw was something that I picked up. It was it came with a DeWalt table saw a few years ago when I purchased it. Was able to kind of buy them as a package deal, and I haven't used it a lot, but it really does work well, especially when you have it set up correctly. And for cases like this, it did great. So now I want to make sure that these are nice and smooth. There are no raised spots in these dados, so that everything fits nice and tightly. And what I end up doing on these joints is on the shelf, I put some glue on, and they fit together really well. So now, using the Craig Foreman to put some pocket holes, as you can see right there. There we go. So to join those apron boards to the legs, I did pocket holes on both ends. Took a little while to get it done, but it worked out really well. Ended up being a very strong joint. Craig makes several types of these, and the Foreman has done a great job for me. I'd highly recommend it. A little pricey, but certainly worth the increase, or I probably should say decrease, in time putting things together. So now you can see the frame that we're putting together here, making sure that I have those spacers under the apron so that we have a little reveal, and clamping it all up, making sure that everything's nice and tight, that the apron is flush with the top of the leg. Hey, let me know something in the comments below if you would. Let me know what your favorite jointing or joining technique would be. Is it pocket holes? Is it biscuits? Is it dominoes? However you do that, feel free to share that. So this is just kind of rinse and repeat. I've always wanted to say that. I follow a few people on YouTube and I hear them say that, and I think, there will come a day when I say rinse and repeat. I said it twice. Here I'm working really hard on trying to find the right bit. I'm going to wander over in just a moment, right now, to grab a middle length bit. And it works out real good. Anytime you're doing these pocket holes, you want to make sure you clamp everything pretty tightly. They can tend to wander just a bit if you're not careful. In fact, I think that's what happens on this base. It ends up being just a little whopper-jawed. Yeah, that's a word. Whopper-jawed. And I think it's because it moved just a bit when I was clamping this up. In fact, you may have already seen it. There it is. See that right there? Yeah, it's driving me crazy. If you guys are anything like me, I want to make sure that this is right. It wasn't too bad though. Now I'm taking the top that I had joined and looking at it and seeing how that's going to work out. It's time to cut the tops to length. Again, they ended up being somewhere around 26 or 27 inches. So we squared one end, made a mark, and now we're going to cut to the mark. One done. Here comes another one. So now it's essentially centering the base on the top. And later, you can see the mark there on the bottom of that top. Later, with all the sanding that I did on this, we tried to get most of that taken care of. So what I did with joining this to the top was a Forstner bit and then drilled a pilot hole and used some screws to secure it to the top. Turned out real nice. If there is any concern in my mind about this, it would be the movement that it might experience over time. We'll see how that fares. Centering the second one, and we'll secure that the same way. So for the third time, rinse and repeat. You can see the little gap that I have there. I think that is, again, largely due to movement that I had when I was putting that together. Again, it's very minor. It's not a lot. And that's the risk you run anytime you put things together. Now it's time to put the TV stand together. We're going to see how those notches work out. And just an alert here, I mess up. Remember the spacers that I had under the apron boards for the end tables? I forgot them here, and I don't realize it for a bit. So we secure it, not realizing it. Now it's time for number two. So now you can see kind of the length of the TV stand. And now it's beginning to hit me as I'm trying to clamp this up that something's not right. Here we go, taking it apart. Those are the moments that you're like, okay, I'm not doing this right. Now we got it. As with any project, you just have to persist. Keep trying, don't give up. And like my dad told me years ago when I was helping him with a welding project, he said, it's only a mistake if you don't fix it. And as you can see, they turned out great. Guys, enjoy this reveal. Thanks for watching, checking out this end table build and the TV stand. Hope you guys have a great day.